True love never dies. Do you believe that? I believe it. That's what we're talking about next on the Driving with Rob podcast. True love never dies. I really do believe that. And one of the reasons I believe that is because I also believe that love is the natural state of being for people. As a human being, your natural state is to love. You're most happy, you're most comfortable, you're most well-adjusted when you recognize love, when you express love, when you feel love. One of my earlier podcasts is called Hate Hurts You. And in that podcast, I talk about just the emotion of hate and how it poisons your life. And the reason it poisons your life is because it is a completely negative emotion, and it is negative to human nature. You have to actively hate. You have to concentrate on hate. But love is different. Love you don't even have to try. Love is a force of nature. Love will happen if you allow it to happen. And love to me is the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy means you feel sorry for somebody. Empathy means you put yourself in their place. But it's all about love. And it's not just romantic love. It's the love for your fellow man. It's the love for other human beings. The love of family, the love of friends, the love of people in your life. If you ever actually loved them in the first place, that never goes away. I was at a funeral recently. A dear friend of mine had his dad to pass away. So I had to be there for him because of the love that I have for him. But also I was reminded again at seeing the people at the funeral. Whenever a loved one passes away, you don't stop loving them just because they passed away. Every time you remember that person, for the rest of your life, every time you think of them, it's the love you felt for them, the love you have for them, coming back. And it's not that it came back. It's that it never left. Anytime you fondly remember somebody who's not in your life anymore, it's the love that you're feeling. Because that love never went away. That love never died, even though the person's life on this earth may have come to an end. Your love for that person didn't. They can't be with you anymore. That doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means you have to learn to live without them. But let's talk about romantic love for a minute. Because usually when people hear the word love, they automatically think of romantic love. So let's talk about romantic love for a minute. You know, you hear this old cliche, you never forget your first love. And if I said to you right now, who was your first love? The face of that person came back to your memory almost immediately. And you may be in your 50s, 60s, 30 years old, 40 years old. Doesn't matter how many years have passed. You still remembered your first love when I mentioned it. And you didn't have to struggle to try to figure out who your first love really was. Somebody's face immediately came into your memory when you heard the question, who was your first love? And your reaction to that memory was a smile came on your face. Because, see, I believe that true love never dies. True love never goes away. When you're very young and you're going through adolescence and you're feeling these first hormonal reactions to being in love with somebody, it imprints on your mind and your heart, and you never forget it. Once logic took over from emotion, you realize that no matter how much you love them, you can't live with them. You still love them, but common sense took over and made you realize we fight too much, we argue too much. Their hopes and dreams, the things they want out of life, are not the same things I want. So you decide that it's better that you don't try to spend the rest of your life with this person. Doesn't mean you don't love them. And that's why they came to your mind so easily and so readily when you heard the question. Because you never stopped loving them. Just the thought of them still makes you smile when you remember them, because love is your natural state of being. Because the feeling of love, even remembering love, makes you happy, puts you at peace, makes your whole self relax and accept that, yes, this is natural, this is good, this is the way it should be. Because that's real love. And real love never dies. And one of the most heartbreaking things about being in love is if you love somebody who doesn't love you back. That's devastating. And sometimes even when you realize it, you just can't accept it. Maybe if I did this, maybe if I did that, they would love me. Maybe if I change the way I am or the things that I do, maybe that person will love me then. You can't make somebody love you. Remember that line in the Aladdin movie? I can't make somebody fall in love with somebody else. They either do or they don't. There's a magic spark, almost. So you can love somebody who doesn't love you. Can you love more than one person? Sure you can. I hope you do. Just because you still love your first love doesn't mean that you can't love somebody else. Because as special as the first love is, they usually don't last. Because a lot of times somebody that you are just desperately, madly in love with doesn't love you back. And you have to move on. And you fall in love with somebody else, but it's different. But of course you can love more than one person. You have more than one parent. How many kids do you have? How many friends do you have? See, love doesn't have limits. And that's the reason I say that love is the natural state of being. There are some people you're going to love as soon as you meet them. Love at first sight. I believe it happens. Sometimes you have to warm up to somebody. They have to warm up to you. It takes a while to get to know a person sometimes before you can really love them. My wife and I tell this same line to each other. It's a good thing I'm in love with you. I would not have put up with your crap for all these years if I wasn't in love with you. Can you fall out of love? I don't think you can. Like I said earlier in this episode, you don't really fall out of love with somebody. You just come to the realization that no matter how much you love them, they make you miserable. No matter how in love with them you are, you can't put up with some of the things they do. For your own mental health, you have to get away from that person. Doesn't mean you don't love them or that you stopped loving them. So no, I don't believe you can fall out of love. One of the most painful things to hear coming out of somebody else's mouth is, I don't love you anymore. And people will say it because they've been so hurt that they're lashing out. And if you really, really want to hurt and devastate another human being, tell somebody you love that you don't love them anymore. But I believe that if that person ever really did love you in the first place, they still do. You maybe made them so angry at you that they said, I don't love you anymore. But if they ever really and truly loved you, they still do. I believe you can love a dog, and I believe a dog can love you back. Cats, I don't know. I like cats, but cats tolerate you. It's hard to get love from a cat. You can give love to a cat, but if you show a dog love, it'll love you right back. It gets all excited to see you, maybe piddles a little on the floor just because you're home. But I believe animals feel love, and I believe they can express love. When you see a mother bear with her cub, there's no doubt that's hers, because of the way she treats that bear cub. Of course she loves it. So just to recap, and then I'm going to bring the episode to a close. I believe true love, if it ever really was true love, it never goes away. If you ever loved somebody, it doesn't matter if they went on to heaven. It doesn't matter if they left and never came back. It doesn't even matter if they infuriate you so much that you don't want to see them again. If you ever really loved them, you still do. Because love is your natural state of being. You have to work at hate, but love is the most natural emotion that a human being can have. And once you learn to love people, you become a happier person. Because that's how God created us to be. Like I mentioned in the 10 Commandments episode, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, and you will fulfill all the commandments. Love is the thing that God put deep inside us so we can connect with each other, so we can help each other. Love is your natural state of being. And if you love somebody, you should tell them so. And real love never dies. And that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks for downloading, thanks for listening, and I do love you. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye now.